Welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us today on the Bootcamp. It's session 3 of this week, so we have a few familiar faces joining. Really happy to see you, over 30 of you today on the webinar. So that's great. I'm really glad that the topics that we picked are resonating with you and that you're finding them valuable. What else? I am going to share my screen quickly with you, just for a little recap for people who are joining us for the first time today. So yes, so if you can see that, guys, so the sessions of this bootcamp are part of Buy Social Scotland. So it's a campaign that we're working on, which is meant to offer some support to social enterprises who are selling products, services, and experiences, especially in the lead up to Christmas. So it's a way to look at common challenges that you guys might be facing as small organizations, and then practical ways that we can help solve them, give you some tips, give you some best practices. And so we have a really good range of speakers that are helping us. It's completely free to join. We have 8 sessions in total, so you can pick and mix if you find things interesting. And then that program will be on the website bysocialscotland.com/bootcamp, and then you can just sign up to what you like. A little note as well that if you are that social enterprise that is selling products, services, or experiences, especially if they fall under the ethical gifts category, then I would love to chat to you to see if I can feature you in the campaign that will start from mid-November onwards. So a few of you have gotten in touch. Thank you for that. I will follow up with you. And then if there are any people on the webinar today who are interested, then let me know. Let me also tell you a little bit more about our speakers. So today we are talking about setting up, maintaining, and driving traffic to your website. So, this year I think has shown that it's super, super important to just have that online presence that is, working on your behalf constantly, that is expressing your brand, where you're sharing your content, where you're selling your products and services, so that even when you're doing nothing, you're at home having a glass of wine in the evening, anybody who lands on your site, that online audience, finds quickly the information that they're looking for, and they have pathways to content that is helpful for them. So hopefully you like this session today and it gives you some good food for thought. So today we have 2 great speakers, so you're in for a treat. We have David, who is head of brand and digital at the Social Enterprise Institute. He's a key figure in the social enterprise community, so no doubt you have seen him before. He's one of the key figures behind Social Shifters as well. So that's a global online community where they have a really good forum, a lot of blog content, and then bite-sized videos about lots of different topics. So you guys can check that out. It's free to sign up. And it's also a place where you can talk about how to shape the future of the social enterprise movement and see people from other countries. So really kind of interesting community. He's also a university lecturer. So basically he's the guy you can go to for any questions like digital marketing, technology, agile methodologies, all that stuff. So thanks for sharing your knowledge today. And then we have also Lisa May. She's basically like a retail guru. She's worked for almost 20 years in, everything retail sales, buying and visual merchandising, marketing, PR for retail businesses, big and small. So she's going to have lots of tips for us. And she's also a coach and the host of an online community. So she works with lots of those independent retail businesses like you guys to give tips and have those kind of like networking sessions, coaching, workshops, all that kind of stuff. So great to have Lisa on board today as well, so she can share some insights, and I think you'll find it super valuable. Let's see, 4 or 5. I think we're going to jump in. Last point for me is, don't hesitate to ask questions in the chat as we go. And I'm going to be there as well to prompt some comments and questions from you. There is no daft question. So whatever, the speakers talk about that you find interesting, or, you're thinking, oh, I would like to know more about that, or actually that's a big challenge that I have, then, drop a message in the chat box, and then we can go through these during the Q&A, since we have 15 minutes for that today. And that's it. Thanks again, David, Lisa. I will stop sharing my screen, and then we will go to Lisa first.
Amazing. So thank you so much for having me. It's lovely to be able to chat with everybody and just sort of, you know, give a little bit of advice, especially in these upside down times. So I'm going to just share my screen really quickly. Can everybody see that okay? Yeah, amazing. So I think exactly what Jessie just said around your website, it's sort of like the window to your brand, and it's sort of something that you want to set up and you also want it to be ticking over in the background. But I know that for many, many small independent businesses, the idea of obtaining or building or creating a website can be really, really daunting, and something that people are just, they put off a little bit and often trade on other platforms just for that security rather than having to sort of take that step themselves. So what I wanted to do today is I wanted to talk about the main two types of visitors that you're likely to have on your website, and whether you have a website or whether you're looking to build a website, how you can accommodate these two types of visitors just through really simple non-technical ways of sort of approaching it. There's so many things that you can do, but this is kind of like your 101 of, okay, so I can tackle that, and that's totally achievable. The two types of visitors that you have on your website, or the majority of websites, visitors that are visiting your website at the moment, are hunters and browsers. And weird names, I know, but it's just a very easy way for you to distinguish between the two of them. There is a larger increase percentage of browsers online through the pandemic because we have more disposable time than we had previously. So I think where people were really focused upon those hunters, which I'll go into detail shortly, it's now a little bit more around those browsers, and they don't necessarily think they're in a place to buy, but your website needs to be able to capture them in a positive way. So we're going to start with the hunters to begin with. And what are these people? So they want to be able to identify products or specific categories really quickly. They don't want to have to be searching around for ages. They 9 times out of 10 will have a rough idea of the purchase that they want to make, but now it's just about honing in on the specifics. So which brand are they going to shop with, or maybe which variation of a product? But it doesn't necessarily have to be a need. It can be a desired product, but they're pretty much in the space of, I'm going to commit to this. I want to be able to find it really quickly. They are open to alternatives. They're not just necessarily needing to see that one item straight up. They are persuaded a little bit. They want to be educated upon the different options that you as a brand can provide. And then finally, they also want a little bit of reinforcement. As much as they know they want to purchase it, are they convinced that they're going to purchase it from you, from your brand? So they want to see, you know, just a little bit of customer feedback or, you know, social credibility on your website. So I've listed out 3 really simple things in which you can do to make sure that you're making it super easy for this type of visitor to, you know, stay longer on your website. That's the whole point. We don't want them to come onto your website and bounce straight off. We want them to be able to navigate quickly and efficiently. So the first thing is, keep your product descriptions, your product titles, whether it's a physical product, whether it's a service, use really normal language. Don't try and be too quirky. Don't try and be too niche. Because you've got to think of the mind of your customer. What is she searching for? What's his problems and what's he trying to find? If you're calling your products really bizarre, unique names, you're making it really difficult for them to find it. The second thing is search tools. So have yourself the option, if you can, and all websites will come with it, give them the option to search. So to search in that section specifically what they're after. Because they want to be able to, if they're short on time, they're not necessarily going to want to go through the various different categories that you have listed out. They're more likely to want to just pop it in a search box. That said, they are happy to search sometimes. So and the best example of it is interior design, homeware products. You may list things under specific rooms. So you may list out bedroom, kitchen, dining room, but then you may also want to list it out as a category. So a lamp, a cushion, a rug, because what you deem to go in your bedroom isn't necessarily what they're going to deem to go in their bedroom. So it's really important to give them the opportunity to search, but then when they are referencing in categories, you're also giving them the opportunity to search through how they might want to shop those items. And the last tip is on each page, try and include alternative products and customer reviews. Now, the alternative products works in a really simple way, in the sense that when you're looking at something, if on that page there are alternatives, you're jumping straight to it. You're making that journey for them really simple. Whereas they may have previously been on the search page that lists all your alternative options, but it's just that back step to then search through it to find them again. So being able to present similar or alternative products on each sale page for each item is just making them, oh, that's really easy. I'm just going to have a look at that. Oh, well, what's the price point of that one? Oh, I'll just click on it. It's just giving them more information in a really simple customer journey. And then if you have got any specific product reviews about those specific items, make sure they're on that page. They're on that page, they're reading, they're tempted, they're, in that place to buy. A little bit of social credibility, a little bit of, oh, a customer's had this before and loved it, is going to do wonders. It's going to tip them over the edge to be like, yeah, I think this is the place that I want to be able to purchase that item. So those are your hunters, and those types of visitors are hugely going to increase as we lead towards the peak and festive season. We do believe that people are going to be really assured of what they want this year for many reasons. The biggest one probably because their disposable income is reduced. So really make sure that when they're in your space and they're in that space to buy, you're making it really easy for them to be able to make those decisions. So then the next type of visitor is the browsers. Now, this is the one that has really increased during lockdown because we're all working from home. We weren't allowed to go anywhere. We were just spending copious amounts of time scrolling through our mobile phones or even our desktops. So who are these people? They don't believe they're in a place to sell. They're Sunday morning drinking their cup of tea after their breakfast, or they're on the bus, or they're watching telly and it's between the adverts. They don't believe they're in a place to be buying something. They don't want to be sold to. However, they do have masses of disposable time. Like, they are happy to browse. They are happy to, to look at things, to be inspired. And the third thing is they're open to inspiration and an exploratory journey. So they have got that lingering amount of time where they don't have that end result in mind. They're not necessarily wanting to hit a goal. They're just wanting to float across your website very non-committally, not thinking that they're making any decisions. So my 3 really simple top tips on how to look after these types of visitors are creating a captivating about us section. People buy from people. They want to know where their money is being spent now more than ever. I can't reiterate that second point enough. People buy from people. They want to know who it is that runs that store. They want to know what that home office looks like. They want to know where their stock's kept. They want to see pictures of the people, the dogs, the children, the husbands, the wives, whatever it is. They want to feel an emotional connection to the brands that they are shopping with. Whether that's because they want to support small businesses, or whether it's just in a place where we haven't had massive amounts of social interaction this year and we're looking for it in alternative places. The third thing is blog posts, and I could list hundreds of topics of different things that you could talk about in terms of blog posts for your website, how-to guides, new collections, working with a customer, anything, absolutely anything. Because again, it's giving your customers that place just to hover, to scan through, to give some skim reading. But the key here is to filter in your few suggestive product images. So when they're reading that great blog post about your new home office, or what it's like managing a business and working from home and homeschooling, there's just these subtle little bits that are through this blog post that they'll go, oh, I really like that. candle, or I really like that toiletry set or whatever it is. I wonder if I can buy that from here. It's just very subtle selling because they don't think they want to buy. We have to inspire them to buy. And the very last thing is things such as, and this is more achievable for product-based businesses, but for those that can achieve lookbooks or galleries or maybe just seasonal inspiration, just things that are very visually orientated. So we're not having to take in information, we're not having to digest lots of facts and figures and information. We can just scroll through some really stunning photos and images. I assure you, more often than not, one of those images will capture your customer's eye and they'll be like, oh, I want to know where that's from. Off they pop to your search engine, type it in, and they find it. It's a really subtle, non-committal way of selling your product, and a lot of people are in that space at the moment. So that was it, the Browsers and the Hunters, two very sort of peculiar names, but I think that's the easiest way to describe it. Yeah, that was it from me. I will stop sharing. There we go.
Thanks, Vita. That's really interesting, and kind of, I like how focused and to the point you were, and I think that in terms of these audiences, it's so often something that we kind of forget about. We were just talking about that in the chat. Sometimes the first time you do your website, maybe you're limited in terms of time or in terms of budget. So you are kind of like, I need something to be live. But then going back to, okay, who is the audience who's actually coming? What are they looking for? Especially for, if you are selling a product or a service, something that people can purchase right away, then it's good to go back to that. Can I ask you, Lisa, in terms of all of the businesses that you work with, what's one of the few key challenges that you find yourself saying again and again to them so that they can think a bit more about who their audience is and the journey mapping on their website?
I think it has to be, and it's so valuable, I think it has to be people like to pretend to be hidden businesses, and they don't want to talk about, they don't want to be relatable. Not that they don't want to be relatable, but they don't see the value in stepping forward and saying, I am a small business owner, you are who I'm shopping with. I think they all feel that it's about the hard sell, and sometimes it's really not. In actual fact, it's people, and I can't say it enough, people buy from people. So allowing yourself to step forward in front of your business and showing who you are and showing up. And I think we mentioned this when we were chatting earlier on in the week. You are the most relatable to your customers right now than you're ever going to be, because as a whole, we are all going through the same thing. So whether you sell products that maybe people are or aren't interested in, you have a weird sort of underlying connection, and I think people will gravitate to that more than anything. So yeah, I think just show up on your website, on social media, just be present, talk about all the little things that go on in your day to day, because more than anything, people are also just a bit nosy. They want to know, like they want to hunt around your I don't know, office under the stairs or whatever it is. So yeah, let them in, let them experience you a little bit more. Don't worry about being so corporate and professional when it comes to showing yourself. Yeah. That would probably be the biggest thing I talk. That's a
really good tip. So be human and don't be afraid to show the behind the scenes and like the everyday. What about,
yes, definitely.
If some of the organizations are, maybe the thing that they sell is, like coaching classes or mental support or something that's more like a service. So maybe they don't have a product to show. Maybe also they're a team where it's not just one business owner. Do you have tips about how you can look a little bit more human on your website or on your social pages? Would you recommend having your team write different blog posts or have them at home doing something and sharing that?
Yeah, definitely. I think you can. We've had clients that are service based, and some of them that have been really challenging. Service based in events, service based in weddings, and obviously those things are not ticking over at the moment and are really struggling. But what they have done is they've just sort of set tasks amongst their teams and shared that on social media and tried to get people involved. I think it's just about appearing human, and actually, regardless of what you sell, whether it's a physical product or not, it's about, I don't know, sharing sharing your office space. Well, no matter what you are selling, you're just appearing more human, and people are going to be able to relate to that. But if you've got teams, definitely your teams need to show up. If you've got pets that are in your office, you refer to them as your co-workers, refer to them as the delivery boy or something. I mean, whoever it is, like, just bring people into your personal environment. It's nerve-wracking for small businesses. They don't like it. It's not where they sit naturally. It's not something that they feel comfortable doing, but just welcome people into it. And blog posts, I'm a big believer of blog posts. People think it's, oh, that's a different occupation altogether. But I'm like, no, it's a really good way of expressing who you are, but building authority and building credibility, having an opinion in a confined space. So anybody who's more service-based, and particularly with clients, I know there's a lot around client client protection. You can't really talk about it, but you can, to a certain element, how the benefits that certain people have and the way that it makes them feel, and how does that make you feel having worked with these amazing people. So there's lots that they can share.
I completely agree. I'm a big believer in blogging, and I think someone in the chat was mentioning specifically that they had seen their traffic go up, like, on their blogs. And I think, like you said, Lisa, it's because we're like living through a moment where we have more time to spend online, and we are craving a little bit that human connection as well. So taking a bit more time to read long format content when we were all like bite size before.
Yeah.
I have a question, Lisa. You've spent a long time obviously building up your web presence, and you've done a lot of amazing work on your website. And I think you've done that by putting yourself in the shoes of your customers and your users. How have you done that? I mean, and how do you continue to constantly come at it from their perspective?
I speak to a lot of people all the time, and when I'm chatting to my clients, I'm figuring out what it is that they do and don't understand, what they do and don't want. Lots of simple things. Like, I feel like I talk about the same 3 things over and over again, one of them being email database. And that is one of the things that people are just like, oh my God, absolutely not, I can't do it. So I know that is something that's going to resonate with people. They know what it is that they should be doing. They don't know how to do it, but I only know that because I talk to them. So put messages out on social media, email previous clients, asking them what they're struggling with. I think it's just, don't assume you're not supposed to have all the answers to what your customers want, but you are supposed to find those answers out. And whether that's on social, whether that's emailing, whether that's sending a DM to somebody on social media, you have to find it out. Otherwise, there's no way you can create a resonating website. You don't have to know the information, but you do have to find it out. Does that answer your question?
It does. So does your website look very different now to what it looked like a year ago, 2 years ago?
Yes. Like, I update my website probably every 2 weeks, like, just because of what and that might sound really scary to some people. Like, I don't have to upload products, so I'm not having to do much maintenance around my website. But what my website talks to now, that we're slightly coming out of this, not going back to normal, but it's this new normal. It talks to very different things to what it did when we were right at the cusp of the pandemic, to then what we were like 3 months into lockdown. You can try and be, and the same with my social media. My social media changes, and your social media is a mini landing page. You've got to constantly keep figuring out, particularly now, because everything's just changing so often. It wasn't always like this, I don't feel. It's because the world around us is changing, yet not changing, but evolving.
Thanks.
Super interesting, and lots of food for thought, definitely. So we'll see if anybody has a few more questions, Lisa, that we can run through at the end. But conscious of time, I think we can jump to David, and it's a nice segue, you know, because we can learn a bit more of the kind of like practical technical things that he can share with us. I'll put myself on mute again, and David, you can take it away.
Thanks. Yeah, it is a good segue. We're kind of singing from the same hymn sheet, I think, me and Lisa, in terms of just getting very customer or user centric in our thinking. Something I'm not really covering today is sort of the idea of MVP, which is really a sort of industry bit of jargon, minimum viable product, but it's kind of the reason I was asking Lisa that question. Your website will change week to week, month to month, year on year, really dependent on how much time you have to spend on it, and getting feedback from your customers and users is the only way that you can kind of evolve and shape it and push and pull it in the right direction. So I think that's probably the most important tip I could give anyone with websites, whether you're creating one for the first time or you're kind of iterating your website. You're always going to be iterating your website from the moment you have it until the moment you decide to shut it down. But hopefully that doesn't happen. Anyway, let me share my screen. Nobody's going to be shutting down the website. It's just going to get bigger and bigger and better. Can people see this? Good. My name is David. I'm the head of brand digital at the Social Enterprise Institute and Social Shifters. And just a quick plug before we begin. Social Enterprise Institute, we make e-learning for social purpose business. So it's kind of niche online learning. We do that all over the world. And just in the last year, we've launched a free to access platform with lots of that learning in kind of bite-sized form and for free. And as Jessie mentioned, there's community space in there. There's lots and lots of kind of free support services, and we're constantly trying to find new partners to provide new support services in different parts of the world. So yeah, I'd encourage you to check it out. So yeah, I'm gonna get a little bit technical today, but I'm gonna try not get too technical. But it's really about building, maintaining, growing good websites, and there's three kind of key areas to think about when we're developing high quality websites, and that is that they're findable, they're accessible, and they're usable. I think Lisa's really given us a bit of a mini masterclass in usability. I'm not going to cover that so much today because of that. So I'm going to focus on kind of making sure your website's findable and accessible. And I will talk a little bit about content and kind of personal brand and getting yourself out there, kind of echoing a lot of the sentiment in Lisa's presentation, but really all focused around this idea of human-centered design. You don't hear that term so much anymore, but I still think it's a good term to describe really what we're doing with websites. It's certainly not a new thing. Human-centered design has been around, well, since before David Kelly and IDEO, but certainly he kind of coined the phrase. And love him or hate him, this man was the master of human-centered design in products and technology and websites. So yeah, these are the kind of areas I'm going to look at with you today. Making sure your websites are discoverable, that they can be found, and this is of course about search engine optimization. Making sure they're accessible. This is about, again, just putting yourself in your user's shoes and removing barriers. Accessibility can be about people with disability, but it can also apply to many other things, as we'll kind of see. And making sure your website is usable so that it is visited and revisited, and ultimately so that it converts your users to purchase or complete an action. And really what I'm trying to say is that there's a sweet spot in the middle where all of these things together. So these kind of key components of what make a kind of well found and used web platform. I'll start with being found. I think that's probably the most important place to begin, because if you're not found, then you're not going to have any website visitors. I think everybody is aware now of the importance of Google and Google's algorithms, and whether you know the detail of Google's algorithms or not. There's constant updates and improvements all the time. Nobody really knows exactly what Google's algorithms are doing, but just know that there are algorithms and they are constantly evolving, and they're generally evolving to try and maintain or improve their own user experience, the user experience of Google, to provide the most relevant, the most current, the most popular results up top. And they're getting more and more and more personalized, and the algorithms are getting more complex. What's really important to understand is that it's all about signals. Without getting kind of too lost in detail, some of the most important signals for Google are, of course, web visits and traffic. So if you've got nobody visiting your website, no traffic, then it's not a particularly good signal to Google. So you need traffic to the website, you need that consistently, and ideally you need that kind of growing, but you certainly need to create and maintain a certain level of traffic to your website month on month. And of course, you can track that with Google Analytics, which plugs into most web builders, WordPress, Wix, Squarespace. But traffic is, of course, number one. Another important signal to Google is click-through. So that would be click-through from your search engine result to your web page. And I'll go into a little bit of detail on that one as to how you kind of get better click-through. Creating share-worthy content. So I noticed a lot of comments about blogging. So blogging is a big part of that, or certainly creating regular, engaging and shareable content that is shared. As it's shared, that is another signal to Google that you are authoritative and that you know what you're doing, and you're positioned well in your industry. And user experience is important. So Google is also keeping track of your website usage and looking at how frequently people are clicking on certain things, how easily they're finding things, how long they're spending on your site. So Lisa referenced that. You want to keep them on your page. Well, you want to keep them on your page to make purchases, but you also want to keep them on your page because it's another signal to Google that your web pages are interesting, relevant, and helpful. So I find this is the easiest way to sort of think about search and SEO, and you really can get lost in detail on this, but it really is all about creating signals that show that you're authoritative, that show that you're important. And a good place to begin with that, and again, you'll see this in any standard kind of web builders, Squarespace, Wix, WordPress, there probably will be an SEO tab and you'll be guided through this process, but it's about, well, firstly about your URLs, your page addresses, your page titles, and your descriptions. These are the three, well, it's the first thing that Google's little spider bots, when they crawl your web pages, they'll find these three things first, and they'll go and look at other sections of your website too. But this is where you would begin. So making sure that these reflect the sentiment or the purpose of a web page. And again, just making sure they're really clearly explaining what your site is, what your product or service is, and particularly what that page is. So every web page is going to be unique, and you must clearly describe that web page's kind of purpose, using keywords, using the URL, page title, and description. And keywords, I guess, and keyword research can be a little bit of a scary thing for some people. You can get help with this, but there are simple ways to do a little bit of your own keyword research without having to invest in a fancy bit of software or go to an SEO expert. I guess in this example, I've used pet insurance because I was looking for pet insurance recently. I don't imagine any of you will be competing with the pet insurers, although I could be wrong. It's a highly sort of competitive market. But you can see that, I mean, my search was best pet insurance UK. And you can start to see what they've done with their keyword placement. So they've used keywords like pet, pets, UK, insurer, insure, favorite pet insurer, I think was obviously a phrase or a keyword that they were trying to kind of stuff into that description. Start to see them mirroring these keywords in key places on the page and in key places in your descriptions. A good place to just begin this sort of thinking is just using Google predictions. So you'll know when you start to type into Google that you'll see a lot of predictive search options start to pop up. And this is based on what people in your region are searching for. You need to go incognito if you're using Chrome or private browsing in Safari. If you don't, then these suggestions will be relative to you. They'll be personalized to you based on your own search history. So if you are going to do this sort of kind of anecdotal research, desktop research, make sure you've got your incognito mode on. You can start to get a feel for, the sort of terms and words that your users and customers might be using. And you might find that they're not the same terms and words that you first thought. You can do the same thing with a lot of social platforms. So LinkedIn, when you start to hashtag your posts, it will give you suggestions. And again, those suggestions are based on the words that you're inputting and the popularity of certain combinations of words. So it was actually Lisa that suggested this one to me. Instagram is another one. Instagram's probably the best one, to be honest, because it actually gives you a search volume. When you try and hashtag your posts on Instagram, you can see not only an ordering of keywords in order of how often they've been searched, but it'll give you a number. It'll tell you within the nearest 1,000 how many thousands of people have used that hashtag. So I think this is a really good kind of little tip if you want to just kind of dip your toe into that keyword research piece. If you want to get a bit deeper, you can. There's really good tool. It's called SEO Moz, moz.com. It can really take you from absolute beginner through to quite advanced, just depending on how far you want to go. I'd suggest that really some of the beginner pieces are more than enough for a lot of websites, but really good place to start if you're interested in going a little bit further with your SEO. Web accessibility is the next one. Now, this isn't a particularly sexy subject. I lose a lot of people when I start talking about accessibility. So I've kept this bit short, but it's really important, and it's tied in with usability, and it's tied in with search. So web accessibility refers to the inclusive practice of removing barriers that prevent interaction with or access to website content. So it's kind of about the principle that information should be available to everyone. And it's about taking steps to make sure that it is at its most kind of fundamental. And I think a lot of people, if they have heard of accessibility, they really think of people with disability. I think that's where people immediately jump. And that is one of our most important considerations with accessibility. People with sort of physical or intellectual disability. You typically think of people who are partially sighted or blind that might use screen reader technology. It might be people who need to use some kind of assistive mouse because their movement is inhibited. So those are the sorts of kind of maybe more obvious accessibility pieces that we would consider. And again, a lot of your standard web builders will have this inbuilt and have functionality which lets you kind of build with accessibility in mind. But what a lot of people don't consider, I think, with accessibility are things like low literacy level users, low technology literacy users, and also just time poor users, and that's probably most of us. And I guess just the literacy in 2019, the average reading age in the UK was 9 years old. As they've achieved a reading ability normally expected of a 9-year-old. The Guardian has a reading age of 14 and the Sun has a reading age of 8. So I don't know if that's surprising to people or not, but this is an issue of accessibility as far as I'm concerned, really. And it's really important, therefore, that we write in plain English. So these are kind of simple things that you can do to make your web pages more accessible. I think by doing that, you make them more usable, and sort of Lisa's already made a reference to that. They're also good signals to Google that you kind of know what you're doing. So there's multiple benefits, I think, to your users and to your business for making your web content accessible. Other little things you can do in terms of just starting to think about accessibility are, again, clear page URLs, titles and descriptions. It seems really straightforward and basic, but that again is just helping people to clearly see and understand what a web page is about. If they're using screen reader technology, for example, their screen reader can clearly articulate to them what that web page is for. And it's another good signal to Google that you know what you're doing. It should improve your click-through rates as well. Captions on video, I think that's starting to become commonplace now. It does take a bit of extra effort, but YouTube and Vimeo have automation on that, so you can start to sort of caption your video material, but it's another really important signal that you are making an effort to make your all of your content accessible. For kind of more on accessibility, there's a website called usability.gov, and again it's got kind of more simple steps on what you can do to make your websites and content more accessible. But as I say, sort of lots of benefits to that. Another little app that I found really Running app. So whether you're kind of a really good wordsmith or not, it's a brilliant app for helping you to simplify the language that you're using. So there's some links there. And shareable content. I just thought I'd touch briefly on something a little bit more exciting than accessibility to finish with. And again, I think I really am just kind of echoing what Lisa was saying here. Help users and customers connect with you and your brand through your content, whether that's a blog post or otherwise. Social media, I think, is always the most accessible way for you to start to get yourself out there via content. You can quite easily set that up and experiment. And on social, it's really about telling your story through informal, sort of self-made methods, video and imagery. Again, Lisa was referencing that, and being constantly active. I think it's something you do need to commit to, whether it's blogging or Instagram or other. You need to be constantly kind of active on it. So that doesn't necessarily need to be every minute of every day, but certainly, every week, a few times. I would suggest. And it doesn't need to be big and flashy and expensive. As Lisa said, it's really about kind of exposing yourself, if you're comfortable to do that, with your customers, and helping them to get a feel for you and your story. And I think people are interested in that, particularly small business. They're, as Lisa says, people buy from people. And these as well are all signals to Google. So whether you're sharing blogs or other people are sharing your blogs, you're just active on Instagram or other social platforms. If it's connected to your website or you're sharing content from your website, Google sees those signals, and you'll be seen as more authoritative. Your website will be seen as more authoritative as a result. A really good example of an organization doing this, and there's so many, I'm sure you some yourselves, is Social Byte. They're kind of one of the biggest and most well-known social enterprises in Scotland. And I think if you go back and look at how they built that Instagram account, it's really, a lot of it's focused around Josh, one of the founders. It's really kind of his story, and he's at the forefront of a lot of their content. Continually kind of reinforcing the message, but it's very much about him, his personality, and those of his co-founders. But I'd recommend you take a look at what they're doing. I was going to show you an example, but I'm not sure. Have we got time? So we've got time. This is a little competition we decided to run. So Social Shifters is SEI has been around for a few years. SEI really just in the last year. We don't have a massive social following, and we're really in the last kind of 4 to 5 months decided to go out to the youth market and students in particular. So we're trying to kind of build our traction and awareness in this space, but we're starting from a base of not very much. We're not throwing big budgets at this. So we came up with an idea to give away some of our e-learning. We have a package of learning called Steps to Startup, which is kind of a launchpad program. So that's what we kind of have to offer. We decided we were going to give away 100 places on Steps to Startup. And so we approached a number of large global youth networks to see if they'd be interested in helping us promote this competition. And the competition was for young people to tell us about the change they wanted to make in the world and why that change was needed, and to do that through just a 1-minute video and share it to their story. We had no idea really if this was going to work particularly well, but there was a couple of big networks, big youth sort of community networks picked it up and shared it. And yeah, we got quite good response to it. So what, I guess the reason I use it as an example is not because we got a lot of entries and we were able to give away a lot of our e-learning for free. It's because we got a lot of great content from it. So we got lots and lots of short, snappy videos from young people with big ideas about change they wanted to create. And we used that content, and we're continuing to use it to create more shareable content. So I'll just quickly show you. Can you see this?
There's a common misconception about millennials is that they're lazy, that they're disconnected. And folks are like, millennials are disinterested. They're like, no, they're just tired of your bullshit.
The twin stalkers of death on the planet are poverty and climate change.
And government and nonprofit alone cannot address them.
My name is Tridi.
My name is Joshua Mangesha.
Hey everyone, Mahalani here.
My name is Ray.
Cassandra Sano.
My name is James.
And the change I want to make is around financial education.
Access to basic healthcare services.
To create solutions for sustainable production and consumption.
So we kind of turned all of those nice stories into sort of a promo piece. And yeah, we spent a little bit of money on that video. So that was. Yeah. There's a little window into my life there. We probably spent about £200 or £300 on that video edit. So we paid an editor to do that for us, but the competition was free to run. We gave away our products for free. We probably grew our Instagram following from about 400 to maybe 700. So it was a fairly low maintenance way to kind of get ourselves out there, kind of offer something for nothing, and get some really nice shareable content from it. And again, I'll say all good, really good signals. Because all of this is linked to and driving traffic into social shifters. So great signals to Google, and that we're kind of building authority and presence. And so that's it. I was just going to recommend a couple of sites that we use. So that video, for example, we use some stock video in it, and we use some stock photography in it, combined with our own. And we got a lot of that from 2020.com. It's not free stock, but it's very reasonably priced stock and quite high quality. And we do a lot of our editing on Canva. So I don't know if you're familiar with Canva, but Canva's a free photo editing tool that you can use to produce kind of fairly high quality social content.
That was great, David. Thank you for that. And you know what? I feel like I've read a lot of stuff about SEO, and I've never quite heard someone explain SEO and algorithms and signals to Google in quite a simple, straightforward way. So kudos for that.
No, I'm a bit of a geek with SEO. I find it quite interesting, but it can be pretty dry, I think.
That's good. We actually have quite a lot of questions for you. So let me just jump in. So Jerry's asking, I've always heard that Google hates Wix and that they make things hard to find. If we use that platform, what do you think?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I have used Wix a couple of times, but it was quite a few years ago.
Yeah.
Why do they hate Wix?
I don't know, I think that I have heard that before actually, Jerry, so it's not just you, but my boyfriend is a designer and he built a site on Wix, and his client actually turned around and said, I thought that, Google hates Wix. And I was like, I don't know. So maybe...
I don't know the answer to that. I'd be very surprised if a massive web build platform like Wix was bad. But
yeah.
My website's Wix. I'm gutted to hear that. I'm
Sorry,
like, what?
Okay, I will officially look into this, and I will follow up when I send the recording. I'd
be wary that wasn't one of the other big companies like Squarespace trying to talk shit. But it could be a quick Google will probably give you the answer to that. But yeah. I don't know.
Also, I do have like one tiny inkling, and again, it's like when I saw this website that my boyfriend was building, Wix had a lot of like those kind of content fields that you have on the page that were photos with like basically encouraging you to type copy on it. And I don't know if you put a lot of your important copy and your keywords, but you put them on an image, I don't know if that is picked up by Google. So maybe that could be one of the things,
If that's true, then that is bad. Yeah. So you can't hide. You shouldn't hide information in an image. So if you do have text in an image, in fact, if you're trying to communicate anything through an image, you should also communicate it through copy and text.
Okay, so that's a good tip that we can learn from. Don't hide copy onto images on your website. Make sure, and you talked about accessibility as well, writing in plain language. Make sure that you have the keywords in your body copy basically, or as like headlines or like little subheaders or things like that, so that Google can pick up that content.
But Lisa uses Wix and she gets tons of traffic. So
she's good. She's not worried.
It's just that I honestly think Wix was the easiest platform if you're doing it yourself when I first started. But yeah, I'm like, I've literally made a note of it to Google it. I'm thinking, bloody hell, this is news to me.
We use WordPress. So if you've already gone down the line with Wix, sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's fine. I'm sure it's like an urban legend, but I will look into it. Let me jump into another kind of technical question, David, and I think this one will be easier for you. Maggie is asking about sort of like backlinks and SEO. What are backlinks? How can you increase the number of them that you have, and why does it work that it makes your site be found better?
Yeah, good question. Backlinks are signals. In fact, they used to be one of the best signals. And it used to be agencies and SEO experts would charge a lot of money to give you a backlink strategy, and they'd go out and hunt down backlinks for you. I guess they're still an important signal, because if a website is willing to give you a backlink, and a backlink is just a link to your website from their website, it's kind of saying, we endorse you. We endorse your website, we endorse your brand, we endorse your content, we will link to it. So it's a really important signal to Google, particularly when the website that's backlinking to you is high authority. So the high authority sites are your BBC News, your Guardians, .edu, your universities, big websites with massive traffic, constant visitation and content sharing. They're kind of backlink gold dust. So backlinks are important, very important still, but backlinks can come from anywhere. You can create some of your own backlinks just through having shareable content. Somebody sharing your content is also a signal. It's also a backlink. But the gold dust are getting backlinks from high authority web platforms if you can. There are tricks you can use, but I'm not going to tell you them because they can also there's what's called white hat and black hat, and if you get caught doing the naughty stuff, then you get in trouble.
That's interesting, and I think actually it's I remember when blogs were first around, I had a blog, I was like that girl. Anyway, we would do this thing where we would find other bloggers who were writing about similar type of content, like let's say food or interiors. And then you would list on the side of your site, you would list like your recommendations of other blogs. So we were all pinging to each other's sites. And I think that helped, back then, like to kind of push our sites up in search results quite a bit, especially if it was big ones, as you said.
Yeah, there are little ways you can kind of game that, I think.
I don't think you can anymore. I think, as you said, Google is constantly evolving, and so it's not that easy anymore to maybe use these little techniques. But I'm talking like 2007, like way back then.
Yeah, but it's often just asking, like
yeah.
An SEO strategist will just probably make lots of calls, write lots of emails, and just ask.
Yeah.
Provided you've got something that's like a product or service that's relevant, and the quality is there, or it's perceived to be quality. It's kind of knocking on doors and trying to create those partnerships and collaborations, and the sharing will come from that. Hopefully, and the backlinks will come.
I guess press and media features as well. If you're one of the social enterprises, maybe you have an interesting human piece about you, or you have like you're launching a new campaign, and then someone like Third Force News or Pioneers Post or even the Scotsman or whatever writes about you, then that's a backlink. So make sure you have a link in there, or a couple. Yeah.
Yeah, there's also, so that's the gold standard. Yeah, if you can get something in a news publication website, that's as good as you can get. There's also things like Wikipedia, creating your own sort of Wikipedia page and things, which will always rank highly. Use the authority of another platform.
Yeah. Another question, I think that was from Charlene, and she was saying, do you recommend showing your social media feeds on your website, or do you think an icon that links to them is better?
I think Lisa's best to answer that one.
Sorry, you're on mute, Lisa. Apologies.
Sorry. I think if you're a product-based business, then again, you want anything on your website to sort of resonate with that product. And if you've got really created images, then absolutely, put them in your footers so they appear at the end of every sort of page. Also, if you appear yourself quite a lot, yes, you want to show that on your website, but ultimately, I think what's really key in any sort of scenario is you want to be able to capture somebody, whether it's an email or whether it's a social following. You want to be able to capture them in a way where you can continue that relationship. If they bounce on your website and leave, you can't get hold of them again. It's really difficult for them to latch onto you. So there's nothing against showing it. That can be a really good thing, but also having the link is going to force them onto that platform, which then they can follow you, and then you've kind of captured them to continue that conversation with. So it's a rubbish answer, but both.
No, it's true. I think you're so right. And here's another question that's kind of related, but do you think that if you sell products, should this appear at the start of your website, or should it appear halfway, or should it appear towards the end? Basically, when you think about that customer journey, and I know you've touched on that in your presentation, but how can people kind of decide where is the right place to start selling, I guess?
Absolutely at the top. Like, you need the product, because when you think about the people that are short on time, they want it there and then. So the people who are short, who have decided to buy, they want it there and then. The other people, so the people who have got more time, they're happy to browse as long as it's really clear in blog and that you have lookbooks or you have an about you page. As long as they can navigate there really quickly and simply, they're going to. But in terms of how soon do you start selling, imagine that your website, if you had a physical store, your website would be your shop window. You would have all the product in the world in your shop window as soon as you see it, because it's kind of like, you kind of got to see that bit before you go into the store. Mm-hmm. So no, 100% your product is your main priority. Just make sure that for those people who are browsing, they can stumble across blogs and about pages really easily. But no, all about the product.
Great. That's a good tip. And actually, I think that's a good note to finish on. I
Hold
think,
on,
you know,
hold on.
sorry.
Ian's done some research on Wix. Look.
Load times. Oh yeah, I can see that.
That could be true. That could be true. So page load time is another signal. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yes.
This is why sometimes as well, it's do you include a video that you embed or that you put on your site, or do you just put an image and then it clicks through to like YouTube so that you don't have anything loading that's too long on your page?
Yeah, but the web builder, if that is true, the web builder should be helping you do that. You know, it should be resizing images for you, and it should be optimizing the page so that it does load quickly. So if that is true, that's not great.
Yeah. I think we're at 5, so I'm gonna close the session. But one final note, you know, thank you both so much for all of your tips. This was super, super valuable and helpful. You know, everyone is saying so in the chat, so that's great to hear. I think that a good thing to take away from this session is, you know, have a look at your website with a critical eye. Think about, you know, what Lisa and David talked about. Think about, are there specific keywords that you want to be ranking for? Do you need to do a little bit of research without being too technical, but, you know, looking on Google in incognito? Is there a specific thing that you want people who access your website to do? If it's buying a product or if it's signing up to an event, then try and go to your website with as if it's the first time you're seeing it, and try and evaluate, is it easy to get there, or is it buried on a page that you wouldn't necessarily, you know, see if you land on the homepage? And also when you are sharing content on social, you know, David talked about having that valuable and interesting content that's going to help you tell interesting stories and build your following. You know, remember to share things on social that are not necessarily about your website, like they're about yourself, as Lisa mentioned, they're behind the scenes, they're content that's meant to be engaging, but also have that content that, you know, links to things on your website, so that it's a balance between both and you're kind of working on driving your traffic on an ongoing basis. I am going to say again, thank you so much, everyone, for joining. Feel free to sign into any of the other bootcamp sessions. And then Lisa and David, really, really appreciate you coming on today.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Great. Have a good evening, everyone.